Hey guys, Josh with Dev Channel, and today what we're going to be working on is a C7 in a place called Bonner's Ferry, which is quite a bit farther north than Sandpoint was from where we are right now. What's going on with it? Well, it's got intermittent low power. It can be a lot of things, of course. HUI, fuel, ECM, whatever. I'll give it my best shot. Van's already running here, so we better get on the road. Daylight's burning. Yeah, let's go see what the heck. So the drive up there, scenic as always. It might look like a warm summer day, but it was actually in the low to mid 30s here. Look at these metal beams on this bridge they're doing here, two of these suckers. My gosh, I don't know how people drive with those. The truckers, I'm really impressed if they can operate the truck with that long of a load. And yeah, driving up here, this is pretty far north. We're only a few miles from Canada actually here. Bonner's Ferry, there's not much more north of Idaho than Bonner's Ferry. And here we are. This is the vac truck, Sterling vac truck. You can see my van there on the left. And my buddy Garrett, actually, there he is, Powell Enterprises there. He's the one that had me come out and help him on this one. And yeah, here's what it's doing basically, folks. So on this test drive here, look at the mountains, pretty cool. And what it's doing is it'll run fine for a while. The intake air temp seems to climb really fast, but what it'll do is it'll start to just drop boost. It'll drop to 4 psi of boost, like in an instant. And so we brought it back, checked the boost pressure sensor. Notice that it's kind of a weird color there, kind of brown. Usually they're not that color. And what we did was we put a gauge on it just to verify that the boost pressure is reading accurately to what the gauge is saying, and it was. So yeah, it'll drive along fine, no codes, good fuel pressure, everything's normal, and then all of a sudden the boost just drops to 4 psi, no derate, no codes. Like I said, everything's fine. So what the heck's going on? So we brought it back. Garrett said, let's flash it. He had the flash file, so they flashed it with the updated version, and it stopped doing it. Like, oh, that's a pretty simple fix. So driving back here in Sandpoint, and I get the call, customer said, oh, it's doing it again. So that means basically destroyed our day. This week's instruction link comes from Jerry, and Jerry sent all these pictures, and this is a 3400 series engine. Apparently this is out of a generator, folks, and it was running, and usually generators is no one nearby, and it ran like this after it threw the rod for 2 whole minutes. And look at that, it broke the rod in half. That always impresses me that there's enough force generated by that engine to actually break a rod in half, because as you know, they are pretty darn strong, and whenever I see a hole like this, it makes me think of this picture my buddy Derek sent. Oh yeah! That's a 3126 engine there, but I'm going to have some good pictures of that one next week. So here we are, we're driving back to Bonner's Ferry to hopefully get this resolved. So we had a discussion about it. We thought, okay, it's probably an ECM issue. We don't know that it is, but just it's so weird. By the way, can you see the ECM? And that's where it is, folks. Right there. Not the easiest. I mean, you can't even see it. There's so much stuff in the way. These Sterling trucks are not the easiest access for the ECM. Maybe for the fuel filter, but not for the ECM. I must say, folks, this is the most complete Sterling chassis I've ever seen. Usually there's one bolt holding all of this plastic stuff on because it always breaks off. The bolts break off, they strip out, the little clips fall off. They're not made to be disassembled and reassembled, unfortunately. Which I found out later because when putting them back together, about 3 of the 8 ended up breaking off the clips, or the clips were missing, so yeah, that's just what happens. Sterlings are not, their cab setup, not the best. So we got all that stuff out of the way. Hey, look at that. Still really bad access there. Now what I did do is anytime I'm doing the ECM here, even though I'm not really dealing with much voltage, I like to disconnect the battery just because you're right over the starter. And I'd really hate to drop a wrench on top of the positive. Not only will that destroy the wrench, might destroy the starter, might destroy the battery cables, or worse. So But regardless, we have to get this ECM out, and I was not sure actually where I was going to extract it from. Usually I pull them from the front, so by the air compressor there, which is kind of what I was looking at there, but I don't think that's going to work because you got the transmission fill slash dipstick here. We got so many air lines in the way. What I'm doing here is getting the blow-by hose off because it covers the front upper bolt, mounting bolt for the ECM. And I was thinking, okay, maybe I could go beneath, but the starter's blocking it. So basically we had to go up to get the ECM out. And Garrett was programming the new ECM the customer had bought while I was getting the old one off. So that kind of saved time. Got my deal code jacket on there. I got that several years ago from Las Vegas. They're a local Vegas crane company. Pretty cool company. They have a lot of cool cranes there. If you're ever by their yard, I'm sure some of the people watching this have been there. They have a lot of old cranes too that aren't used anymore, but I guess the owner just likes them. Very cool company out there. And you might be saying, well, Josh, you look like you're working in the Arctic here. You got a jacket on, hat. Yeah, like I said, folks, it was in the mid-30s. I'm in the shade here, and it was a windy day. The second day out there is super windy. Just probably like 10 to 20 mile per hour constant winds. And yeah, at least it wasn't raining. It did snow a little later, which is kind of funny. It snowed the day before, too, even though it is well into spring here. And you might be saying, folks, you know, the last video you were working on a hydraulic cylinder. This one you're doing an ECM. You did an overhead. We want to see some real engine work, Josh. Big engine work. Well, folks, upcoming video, probably the next one, we are back in deep on a C15. It's going to be a very interesting video. I already shot all of it. I just need to edit it. So if you want to see big engine C15 work, stay tuned, folks. Next video should not disappoint. And what we're doing here is, as you can see, it's just almost impossible to get these bolts out. There's 4 mounting bolts and 2 70-pin connectors. The connectors are actually quite easy to get out, but some of the mount bolts were not. So yeah, here we are. This is from inside the cab looking down. You can see the ECM there is already off of the engine, but just trying to get it through what they call the doghouse here. And we got a fuel line. That's the return fuel line. That silver 90-degree fitting coming out of there is your fuel pressure regulator on a C7 or 3126. If you were wondering where that is, that's where it is. This one does have a fuel pressure sensor, which some C7s have and some don't, but if you do have it, that's generally where it is. Sometimes the regulators also ran out of that port where the fuel pressure sensor is, but that is somewhat rare. So what I'm removing here is, this is a high pressure C7. It's a 330 horsepower. And the high pressure C7s have that steel line that I just removed there. That is for the wastegate. They have electronically controlled wastegate, unlike the lower horsepower ones. And it runs around the back of the head and goes over to the turbocharger. But it was blocking our friend the ECM there. We were able to get it out though, so pretty happy about that. Just putting the new one in here. And it was not hard to actually install. Luckily, Garrett was here to assist because one of the mounting bolts, they're on spacers. It's not just a bolt. There's 2 rubber isolators and then a spacer. The front upper one was very difficult to install, I will say. That is an understatement. But basically, he had to hold it in place from a magnet inside the cab while I used an extension and a deep socket to try to locate and then install it. Also, that one has the grounding strap going to it, so not the easiest. Probably most people would have left it off. I don't want to say I would have done that if Garrett wasn't there, but it may have happened. There may be 1 or 2 ECMs running around that I've installed that don't have all 4 mounting bolts on them, but generally I give it a very good try to always get all 4 on if possible. So how did it do? Running good. Yeah, after the ECM replacement, ran the heck out of it. Did an hour test drive. They did a bunch of pump cycles with this because this is a vac truck, so the pump runs the PTO up almost a 20 psi boost, so it's pretty good load on the engine. 2 full loads of water, and yeah, it ran good after that. That was several days ago, and no word from the customer, so no news is good news. It was raining and then snowing, and then the rain went away on the drive back, so nice reddish, beautiful sky on the way back. Kind of a fun job. Maybe not, the most technical engine work. That'll come up next, but just kind of a day in the life of being Josh. All right, thanks for watching.